Welcome to the Persuasive Mindset, your podcast guide to mastering the art of persuasion by exploring its role across diverse fields through in-depth conversations with experts. I am your host, Dr. Serena Mate de Londra. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Lucia Gomez Teijeiro, senior researcher at the University of Geneva and assistant professor at Bern University of Applied Sciences. In this episode, Dr. Gomez Teijeiro discusses the Mapping Philanthropy Project, which is an ambitious initiative using AI and natural language processing to bring greater data transparency and collaboration to the philanthropic sector. She reflects on her path from neuroscience to computational thinking and on her passion for project-based teaching that empowers students to create real-world solutions. And when it comes to persuasion, she argues the following, and I quote, "For me, persuasion is an art, the art of communication. It's when whatever you're communicating generates an intrinsic motivation cascade inside the listener," end quote. She also offers practical advice for students and early career professionals on embracing resilience, purpose, and authenticity. Whether you're passionate about philanthropy, data and AI, or navigating your own career path, this episode is for you. Now, let's dive into our conversation with Dr. Gomez Teijeiro. Enjoy! To help set up the conversation, I propose that we start by talking a little bit about the current project you're working on, and particularly, what is the Mapping Philanthropy Project?
The Mapping Philanthropy Project started in 2019, and the objective of it is to try to put together all the philanthropic organizations that exist and that are active in Switzerland and beyond at an European level, to put them in a map to say what they are doing to visualize the sector. And we use artificial intelligence in order to derive insights from information that is public about those philanthropic organizations. We want to serve philanthropy themselves, like the sector itself, so organizations can find each other and unite forces. We want as well the societal impact of, so everybody knows what philanthropy is. And I believe that there is many misconceptions about what philanthropy is, that is a matter of few or something. No, it's a huge sector that does huge things. And if you think a global perspective on the world, like philanthropy is a sector, a powerful one, and it's not only about governments, it's not only about companies, it's not only about educational institutions, etc. Philanthropy is there like a net connecting everything that nobody else sees, and what we want to do is to map that hidden reality.
And could you please explain why is this project currently based in Switzerland?
This project is taking place in Switzerland because Giuseppe Ugazio had this idea. And so Giuseppe Ugazio is the professor. He got the chair in philanthropy in 2019, exactly, at the Geneva Center for Philanthropy. At the time, I was a PhD student in his course about neurofinance. And we started playing around with research in that course. And he gave me the opportunity to try some NLP, some mapping of other stuff. And then he said, "Hey, Lucia, I have an idea. Would you like to join forces with me?" That he was just appointed as the chair in philanthropy, in order to try to map the philanthropic sector in Switzerland. I said, for sure, let's do that. We started like altruistically in a way, and but it's happening in Switzerland because he had the idea, as just simple as that.
Based on what you said, one of the things that I'm very curious about is how is your approach to data sharing in the Mapping Philanthropy Project different from what's already out there on the market?
Our approach is an academic approach where the knowledge that is public out there or given publicly, or the knowledge that a human generates, should not be behind a paywall. Our approach is an academic approach of open source, is this philosophy of together we build something that is sustainable. I understand that a company might identify a gap, a societal need, a gap that is mapping philanthropy. We know it's necessary to map philanthropy. So that's why there is these several businesses that build web applications that are basically search engines for philanthropic organizations. And I understand this exists. However, I believe that a company should provide a service on top of that and should charge for a service on top of that, not for selling information that don't belong to them just because they collected the data, right? I do support all these type of companies. I collaborate with these type of companies to think about how they can provide a service to the sector. Perfect. But the data and the search engine and the way this is used and regulated, if you want, this is a decision of philanthropy. It's not a decision, neither my decision as an academic, neither should be the decision of the company.
I'm also aware of the fact that the same project has now become a course at the University of Geneva. And I'd like to ask, could you please describe how that came about?
How this became or transition to becoming a course, I guess this is, well, it happened as naturally as a natural language processing. Because Giuseppe and I, let's say, we believe in different way of doing things. In fact, in 2020, Giuseppe spoke with somebody who got a prize in Tunisia for innovative teaching, and what he proposed as a course is called institutional projects. This is something that happens only in GSM, in the Geneva, in the economics faculty, in fact. And I believe that this should happen in every faculty of every university, institutional projects. So basically, any student at bachelor level can engage into a project. So it can learn and win credits and pursue the career through doing stuff. It can be whatever that is institutionally going on. And for us, it was Mapping Philanthropy going on. We were two people, so we said we want to engage students and have a working force so we can make this happen. And already in 2020, we got the help of 5 6 students across the year, and it's thanks to them that we could launch the first version of Mapping Philanthropy. It's thanks to those students. If not, it would have been impossible. And since then, so through the many phases of philanthropy, slowly, and now the master's course in philanthropy, what we are trying to do is to transform these courses from this traditional teaching structure of speaker speaks and students listen to students do. And we have an institutional joint effort that translates into practice, and where students as well, they win professional track record of a product they built as a team altogether.
So it looks like the project has been going on for quite a while. And at this stage, in your opinion, which iteration of the Mapping Philanthropy Project do you think you're working on?
This project will never end. That's a it's a nice question which iteration it is. Let's consider one iteration every 2 years. So maybe to say something would be third. Yeah, I like the third iteration. Maybe the first iteration was that first version only Switzerland before when I was a PhD. After, I would say, once I defended my PhD and I started to have free room to think and the freedom as well to start teaching a little bit, we got this collaboration with Philea. This is an institution at the European level that represents philanthropic organizations and defends them and educates and unites the sector, so Philea. And there is where we prepared the first version of the data commons for 2024. And right now we are on the second version of the data commons together with the students of this cohort 2025, both bachelors and masters. We have this version 3 that will be presented in Germany in 1 month, not even half a month. And from this semester on, it will be the version 4. But for this semester, what we thought with Giuseppe is that instead maybe of keeping on collecting data, putting together data, analyzing data, for the bachelors, what we will do is a very, very necessary step that we call the critical mass project, in which groups of students, each group will select one philanthropic foundation wherever it is in Europe, preferentially. If it's diverse country, better, because like this we show and really bring light and visibility to those foundations that did a transformation towards transparency, that can tell their story of, oh, a being transparent in fact brought me benefits. There is a lot of benefit of being transparent. I want trust, people know what I do, my causes are better supported. Because in philanthropy, the problem, so data commons, okay, the data commons is about making philanthropy visible. Now, philanthropic organizations, and in Switzerland this I think is even more than in other countries in the continent, are afraid of saying what they do because of the backlash of the society, because of being finger pointed on, because philanthropic organizations, they defend causes that are on their own difficult to defend. So sometimes it's necessary to go a bit behind the scenes to not really make noise about what is being done. But at the same time, this limits the impact they can achieve. So it's like a endless cycle. We want to show this critical mass and say, hey, look, all these critical philanthropic organizations see the benefit, and the benefit is higher than any potential problem.
If you were to look back, what do you think is one of the biggest struggles that you've noticed when trying to push this project forward?
Everybody knows this is a need, mapping philanthropy. Everybody wants a data commons of some sorts, but there is this dynamic of fear at the same time. Is the wanting and the fear. So the struggle and the continuous fight in a way for pushing it and believing in it and say, yeah, 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 let's do it. But it's a lonely fight, because whenever you go to a conference or to a meeting of philanthropists, you perceive the fear. It's like, let's stop. No, we need to control. We need to. And the thing is that it never happens. It's been since 2019 that we are trying to put this forward, and we are alone. So not as alone as before, because right now we count with the support of Filea. There is an Italian organization as well that is joining forces. The Finnish country level foundation that represents philanthropy is with us. So we have voices that are saying, okay, we support you. Let's go. Let's try. But it's a lonely world. And what we need to do and what needs to happen, and I would wish for it to happen, is to start a process in which we have a version out there without fears. And once a version is out there and accepted by a few, the benefits would be seen, and then it will not be anymore a lonely world. So more foundations would say, hey, that's cool, let me join forces. And then it's not me and Giuseppe in one corner trying to make it happen, but it happens in Europe.
And staying with this idea of zooming out a little bit, I'd like to ask, how do you believe that the Swiss philanthropy landscape compares with philanthropy in other countries?
There is different indexes that track how impactful is the philanthropic sector in different countries. So you have Philea reports, you have the Lilly School of Philanthropy, and there is like world indexes and stats of all sorts. And when you look those, you see Switzerland is always in the top five. It's always in the top five. And why this top five is not necessarily that it is known the assets, it's not necessarily about the money, because Switzerland is quite secretive about the money that is in philanthropy, but it's more about numbers, the number of philanthropic organizations that exist, and the number of projects that can be tracked and emerge from a philanthropic organization in Switzerland is always in the top five. I think 2 years ago it was in the top three, even above the States, which is, imagine that, because we are a small country. How is that we have a much bigger density? That's the thing, is the density of organizations respect to the number of people that live in this country. And I believe it's the social plus governmental ecosystem that allows this to happen, and it's wonderful.
Thank you so much for describing to us what the Mapping Philanthropy Project is. Before we move forward with our conversations, I'd like to take a moment and stop and reflect on some of the key concepts that define your work, and that will help the listeners better understand your complex work and trajectory with this project. And to start, I'd like to ask, could you please explain to us what is philanthropy?
So philanthropy is diverse, but it's the giving of private resources for the public good. As broad as that, it needs to stay broad. In the moment you try to constrain the definition, you are not speaking about philanthropy anymore. It's like whatever private resource for the public good. It can be even a speech. I'm doing philanthropy maybe now by transmitting my thoughts. For me, yeah, philanthropy is that. I don't expect any return, but I feel good, and that's good. Like, I believe that the definition of altruism needs to be as well expanded. You should feel good for doing good. So philanthropy, whenever you feel you are giving and that you feel good because you are giving and you don't expect any return, that's philanthropy.
And maybe a second concept that would be nice to define is what do you actually mean when you talk about an NLP?
NLP is natural language processing. That's what it means. And basically, I would say that what people consider is artificial intelligence, like the general population first think about when you hear artificial intelligence, that's NLP. That's natural language processing. Is the computer ability to understand and produce language, natural language. It's a field that exists since 20, 30 years already, but slowly evolved and became what today is ChatGPT, for example. It's a natural language processing algorithm.
And the last concept for now, when you talk about natural in natural language, what exactly does that mean?
By natural language, I mean the way we naturally humans communicate our thoughts, our ideas. Because you can have language representations that are technical, mathematical, but it's not the way we speak. So, natural language takes into account how do we say things, not only what we say, but how we say it, within which intentions. Like, the objective of natural language processing is not only getting what is verbal, what is written, is also how we communicate is beyond that. That's natural.
I'd like to ask now a couple of questions about your career trajectory and also your perceptions of teaching and your approach to teaching. And I'd like to suggest that we go back a few years and ask the question, how did your personal interest in philanthropy begin?
I wasn't interested in philanthropy when I started because I didn't even understand the scope of it. I've always been a philanthropic person, but it just happened naturally that I am always volunteering here, volunteering there. I guess it's like I want to do everything. And there is organizations and causes all over the place. Indeed, I do teach Spanish at the Université Populaire du Canton de Genève, and this happened naturally when I arrived. I started to study German, and then 6 months after, I was volunteering, and I keep on doing it today. And in Spain as well, I was doing philanthropy all the time, but I didn't understand that this was philanthropy. I didn't understand the concept, as I believe society doesn't really understand the concept. And it was Giuseppe that got this chair in philanthropy. And when he said, "Ah, do you want to do philanthropic studies?" I was like, what it means, I didn't understand. But when I started to enter in this world, it seeming so confusing to me. Now I understand and I see the beauty of philanthropy. Philanthropy is this sector of society that takes care of the most important problems in the world, all of them, because the sector is so diverse. There is organizations that take care of problems that you could never even imagine they exist if you don't look at them. So it's endless, it's rich.
And then linked to career choices, I'm curious to know how did you end up studying neuroscience and specifically why did you decide to choose Geneva for that path?
Indeed, I think the two questions are one, because it's not that I decided. I didn't decide to study what I study. I didn't, it wasn't me. I believe this. It wasn't me. It was life. My psychologist, she says, when you find your dharma, she says, your dharma. That's the mission you are supposed to have. So it's not me. It's absolutely not me. And there is an inflection point that made this possible. So it wasn't me. The thing is that I was in Spain. I wanted to be a psychologist. I was studying psychology. I wanted to help people and to do therapy. Just I wanted to be a therapist. And no, in fact, it didn't happen because it's not what you want, it's what life wants for you, right? This is something that I learned. And I wasn't able, I was like 21, 22, something, 23 maybe, around that age. And I wasn't ready, psychologically ready to be a therapist. Now I know why, because I wasn't patient. Potentially, I'm not patient neither now. Like, it's like, go, 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 do, do, do. No, people has their own time. So for being a therapist, you need to be patient. I'm not. Okay, next, right? And in that time, I was really lost. I was super lost. Like, oh, what I wanted in life is not for me. what it is for me. I was lost. And then I thought about doing a master's just because it's the obvious next step. At the same time, the political situation in Spain was really not ideal. Economic and political situation was really not ideal with my values. Okay. So I said, it's time to go. I'm going. I didn't say anything to my parents. That's the thing. But I said, slowly, I'm going. I started to send my CV and motivation letter to master programs in Europe and Switzerland, like random. Ba, 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 ba. I was like open to whatever in a way, literally whatever. My CV and my motivation letter was the standard stuff. And only one person replied to me out of the 100 people that I contacted. Only one person replied to me. And that's the inflection point. This person that I want to make a special mention, maybe in this interview, if I can, please. Alexandre Dayer. Now he's not anymore with us. No, he's on the other side of this world. And he was my professional father. He trusted in me. He replied to me and to that email saying, "Oh, you are such an atypical profile. I want to know you." He said that. And so he invited me to this interview for the master program. And he realized that I had no clue about that master program, like absolutely no clue. This was molecular biology, right? Neuroscience. It's an interdisciplinary master program that I super recommend. It's wonderful because it's very research oriented. And so me, I didn't know the language, I didn't know molecular biology, nothing of that. But Alex, indeed, he is this kind of person that saw or that connected with that inner motivation. And he said, I want you there. I want you with me. Come, come. In 1 month, I was in Switzerland without speaking French, obviously, nothing at all. And slowly, slowly, he told me, I want you to do whatever you want. Just do, just do, just do. And he told me that he appreciated much more my motivation than any knowledge that I had. And he allowed me to do anything that I wanted. And at the end of my master's, I said, I'm tired of doing lab experiments, molecular biology lab experiments, because the chemicals are really not healthy. Takes a lot of time. You need to use animal tissue. Like there is a lot of ethical things going on that I'm not that person. And I said, I want to study molecular biology. I really love the field, but I want to do it computationally. And that's the inflection, the second part of the inflection point. At the time, there was one in the entire department of neuroscience, therefore in the entire Geneva University, that was doing computational neuroscience. Julian Prados. Amazing, wonderful. Now he's part of the bioinformatics platform. And back then, so Alexandre, he said, sure, go. But I had no clue. I didn't even know how to write a line of code. Nothing. I've never did that. Right? And he said, do, go. Julian knows. You learn together. And that's how I ended up doing what I do, artificial intelligence. I believe that anything, absolutely anything from any discipline in the world, whatever question it is, can be modeled with a computer.
And now, fast forwarding to today, what is your current role at the University of Geneva?
At the University of Geneva, my position is called Senior Researcher and Lecturer. And basically, what I do is I do research and I do teaching in artificial intelligence for philanthropy. This is the biggest proportion of my time here in University of Geneva.
On LinkedIn, we can see that you are currently also teaching at Bern University of Applied Sciences. And I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about that. First, what is your current role there? And second, from a teaching perspective, how do you believe that Bern's University of Applied Sciences approach to teaching compared to that of Geneva universities?
I'm an applied scientist, and that's the perfect place, as well as Geneva, obviously. So there I have a lot of fun, the same way I have a lot of fun in Geneva. And what I teach there is data science from many perspectives, artificial intelligence from many perspectives, with a view more on finance and business. So on the for-profit side of things, there is a very, very small team that study philanthropic governance, but I'm trying to exchange with them, but we are in different chapters of life, let's say. But it is me, the person that brings the philanthropy angle to Bern. So it will slowly become something, I'm pretty sure. So as I joined BFH, Bern University of Applied Sciences, in 2024 as assistant professor, I joined what they were already having as teaching plans. And there, my dearest colleague is Branka Misheva. She's lovely. She has this approach to teaching that is quite similar to mine. I believe that's why I'm there, because she said, I want to work with Lucia, and I do want to work with her. So we have a very, very applied way of teaching. And what we teach is data science with a perspective more on finance and business, but really applied. So we want to prepare students as if tomorrow they would be data scientists in a company. So how to do things. We do very, very little blah blah. Like we talk a little and we do a lot. Like we have students doing things. We don't do exams. That's over. Like I don't do exams in Geneva either. I don't think that's any close to testing understanding and knowledge. But we do projects. It's project-based courses in which the students need to create a data science product that brings business value, whatever business it is. For example, last year we had this project of comparing the parks of Disney across the world. Paris versus there is one in US, there is one in Japan, and to understand what works and what doesn't in the different parks, given the customer reviews about their stay in the parks. And sounds like the worst park is Paris one. And so we said, okay, so what it needs to happen in Paris, what they have to change so it's as good as the one in US.
Also, currently at the Bern University of Applied Sciences, you have been asked to design an AI specialization program. Congratulations. I'd like to ask, how did that come about and what does it actually involve?
Last year they told me, hey Lucia, I think you are the one for creating the artificial intelligence specialization program for bachelor students. And the way the study program works there in BFH is very applied. So the idea is to prepare the students to go to the job market or to open their own companies as soon as possible, in a way. And the students, they spent 2 years learning basic knowledge about business administration or digital business. It's really applied. And then in the last 2 years, they choose a specialization program. There is many specialization programs. And the one they told me, Lucia, build this one, is the artificial intelligence program, because there wasn't one for business. So there is 3 modules in this specialization. One that is more about learning the basics, the programming basics, like you write code, you build an application from zero to hero. There is one more that is on the innovation and ethics aspect of artificial intelligence, because there is a lot of things to think about there. The path of transformation is not only, oh, I have this vision, I want to create this artificial intelligence algorithm for improving my business. No, it's about the process and all the barriers that happen on the way and how to make this innovation something sustainable. So there is this other module. And the module that I'm teaching myself with Branca and Julius is the artificial intelligence in industry. So listen at that. This would be so fun as a course. This is so fun. The idea, we are this team of teachers and we joined forces with the Start Hub, that is a subunit inside of BFH that coaches students entrepreneurship to create the startups they want, because many students, they happen to create startups as they study. It's really very nice place to be with the students. And so we joined forces and we are offering to the students this 360 degrees perspective on how to go from AI to industry from the coaching on business perspective. So we have the Start Hub for that. And we are the technical team, me, Branca, and Julius, that the objective is they have 6 months this semester in teams to create a minimum viable product of a startup using AI. So the first day is a hackathon, groups, like think about a societal need that you care about and think about how AI can solve this societal need. Then there is 3 weeks in which me, Branca, and Julius, we show how a current existing startup can be built coding, right? Because they got this course in coding already. So we show, hey, you can create a minimal viable product in 1 month, but I teach you in 4 hours, right? Like crash course. And then they have the rest of the semester to work on their product. And the exam indeed would be this kind of Shark Tank perspective, where we have the teachers, the startup and company people that are companies in AI products that will judge the minimum viable product of the students, and that's the evaluation. Then they have the support of the startup for the next year to launch their startup and become rich.
I like to shift gears again and talk a little bit about your perception of the topic of persuasion. And to start, I want to ask, what does persuasion mean to you?
Some people perceive persuasion as a negative thing, some people perceive it as a positive thing. I'm a positive person and I perceive persuasion as a positive thing. Huh? So, persuasion for me is an art, is really an art of how you communicate. So, whatever you are communicating generates an intrinsic motivation cascade inside of the listener.
And if we're to reflect a little bit on this concept of persuasion, could you please share with us an example from your own life where persuasion has really helped you?
Let me say, I'm lucky because I'm Spanish. I think persuasion has helped me all of my life, all the time, all the time. Because the way Spanish people, I'm not saying everybody in Spain, okay, not everybody, but we born with it, with this capacity of loving, speaking with passion. It's like, whoa, everything has a lot of strength. And when you go and you tell to somebody whatever idea you have and you say it with the emotional load it has, with your real passion, then the other person immediately connects. And when you connect with somebody in whatever context, whatever problem, whatever it is, things happen. I remember, so this apartment in which I am right now. So I'm an anxious person in reality, and I'm afraid of life not going the way it should. Even if I should trust, I was really afraid not to have a home when my time at the university residence was over in 2016. It's been a long time. And then I was looking for a flat and I was unable to find a flat that I could afford because I was poor. Oh my God. But you cannot stay more than 3 years in that student residence. I didn't have a job yet. So I was really desperate. But I remember the day that I met this person through Facebook that was exactly leaving this apartment. He was looking for somebody to grab the apartment in 1 week. It was a cheap apartment that I could afford, but they wouldn't have given it to me at all because I was very in the limit. I didn't even have a contract. It's like my parents' money is. But I went to the rental agency and I went with all my emotions. I went pure, like I am, like, look, please, I just met this person that wants to leave this apartment and I need an apartment and I'm really like this and I'm blah, 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 blah. Like emotional. I told my life. I told them my life, like, please, I need to live somewhere. And in Geneva, it's really difficult to get an apartment. And they said, okay, no problem. We connected as humans. That's the persuasion. It's a good thing. The person understood that I have a good intention, that please trust in me. Thanks, Lord, the person trusted in me and having this maybe capacity to go wild and say who I am, not be afraid of vulnerability, maybe. And in 1 week, the owner of the apartment said yes, and done. The problem was over. But all the time, persuasion, all the time.
And one more question on the topic of persuasion. When it comes to your own work, how do you adapt your narrative so that different types of audiences can really understand your field because it is so complex? And particularly, I'd like to ask, does persuasion play a role in that? And how do you try to make science and also data seem engaging for the public at large?
When you want to communicate what you do, in fact, I don't know if this is something said in many different languages or cultures. At least in Spain, we say, you know that you know something and that you can tell a story or transmit a piece of knowledge when you know how to tell it to your grandma. So it's hard. The more you know about something, the less you are able to tell it to your grandma. You get too technical, you get too much outside of the real world. And it's super important because dry science is useless. Nobody will read what you publish in a super peer review high impact paper. It's about going and telling to the people what's going on, what's the problem, engaging the audiences and transmit it to the public. So Persuasion, if you want, we keep on this talk in 4 days or something. Well, the 3rd of September, I will be in this Bern, invited by Swiss foundations to give a workshop on transforming philanthropy together. And I remember maybe 2 years ago, in the same place, it was the Swiss Philanthropy Day, and we gave a workshop. The thing is that it was so playful, in the sense that we were telling philanthropists, really philanthropists, not academics, what data is about and why data for philanthropy is important. I mean, if you were there, that was giant. It's a giant place, the Kursal. Obviously there was a lot of people there, and we transformed this into some sort of a TED talk or a show, in which we had the philanthropists shouting all together, like 100 people, I don't know, 200 people, a lot of people shouting together, "We need data, how we want the data," right? Like, yeah, you need to make it playful, you need to engage your grandma with the topic. So exactly, so it's much more important to transmit the motivation than the information. You can read it online, but just when you speak to somebody, to an audience, you want to say, "Hey, this is important, remember it."
And as we're approaching the end of our conversation, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about future outlook and career advice. And my first question on this topic is, looking ahead, do you believe that coding is still an essential skill for the future, and should students invest in that?
I do believe that coding is a field of the future. Absolutely, yes, but not the way it was done until 2 years ago, just in a different way. So, my students, all of them know that I don't want them to memorize code. I don't want them to know how to write code, because this is something that AI can do for you, to speak the language. What I want the students and what I teach is computational thinking. That's the thing. Programming allows your brain to access to a new dimension of reality that otherwise you don't develop. You just don't develop. It's similar to when somebody is musician or is not a musician. You decode a part of your brain, a thinking mechanism of your brain, and AI can write code. So you don't need to memorize code, that's fine, but you need to understand code. You need to communicate with a computer. So it's the computational thinking, is the way that you transform an idea, very abstract idea, into something that is working, that is doing something, the thing you envisioned. Let's imagine very simply drawing, because I did some I did a semester of architecture when I was young. I love to draw. I love to draw. And what I struggled the most in drawing, and I'm giving this example so everybody sees what computational thinking is. You can say, okay, I want to draw an elephant in a lake, and you have this image in your brain, the imagination of an elephant in a lake. You have it so vivid in your brain, colors, everything. At the moment you take a pencil and you try to draw what you have in your brain, it vanishes, it disappears. You lose it. You lose it. And you need to train. That's what makes you a painter, right? Is the training of keeping that mental idea, image, and transform it into a product. So that's computational thinking. You need to have this idea, the thinking, boom, and keep it there and transform it into something that works. That process has nothing to do with writing code, has nothing to do with maths, it has nothing to do with any discipline that is taught today per se, but it is what it is. That's the element. That's the element that will stay forever, because societies are more and more digital, and maybe in the future, in 10 years, we have robots all over the place. The coffee in the morning is done by a robot. Potentially those that have computational thinking, they can tweak their robot to do coffee macchiato. Oh, I don't know. Right? Those that don't will just do the standard coffee. It's computational thinking. That's the skill to learn.
Based on your work experience, do you see philanthropy and AI together as a field for the future?
It's very needed. I don't know, I cannot promise, I cannot say that philanthropy and AI is the profession of the future or a direction that is certain. It's not. It's not. Because philanthropy is a sector that is very traditional. So there is a lot of barriers. It's not the sector where artificial intelligence will flourish fast. No. Philanthropy is the sector that you need to work it really slow, slow, slow. But personally, I think it's so, so, so needed because philanthropic organizations, they are group of people, normally very small groups, maybe 3 or 4 people fighting for something with all the vision, all the conviction, a lot of passion, but no resources. No resources. So if you need like to find your path in life, personally, I think first find your security zone, something that provides you with what you need for eating and having a health care system and a roof. And then AI for philanthropy, personally for me, I'm not saying everybody chooses the direction. For me, is a field to pursue forever because there is very few people that do it, and it's necessary to empower those small causes, groups of people that don't have resources to do it otherwise.
And finally, if you were now speaking directly to young professionals and students starting out today, what advice would you like to give them?
Okay, so if I have to choose anything, I have the freedom to tell you what's the advice for you young professionals, students, is mindset. That's the only. That's the only one. Mindset, mindset. How can I summarize this? So there is this metaphor. When you see a plant that is growing, that is starting to show up on the grass or whatever, on the land, this plant knows where the sun is. The plant knows. Okay? It will move and grow towards the light. So a human being that is growing and trying to find the light, indeed, that person knows where the light is. So it's about shutting up the mind, the ego. I told you that I'm an anxious person, so I'm aware of that. I'm aware that my anxiety, my ego, my mind is my worst enemy. So the effort is mindset, is shut up mind, shut up fear, shut up insecurity, shut up imposter syndrome, shut up all that. Be yourself because you are unique, because there is a place in the world for you. Yes, you need to go to the light. Yes, go to the light. And in the way of going to the light, suddenly you see that life tells you, no, it's difficult. You go in that direction, oh, it's difficult. Like when I wanted to be a therapist, I suffered, it was difficult. Then just accept that is not your dharma, if you want, that's not your path. Believe, it's a mindset, it's a belief. Believe that there is a place for you, and whenever you arrive to that place, you will feel so connected to it that you will know this is the one. Pam? But this can only happen when you give up on the ego, you give up on life, you say, no fear, no imposter syndrome, no anxiety. I believe, I can, nothing stops me. If somebody proposes you to do something, unless you have a reason that impedes you to do that, absolutely, you have no way to do it, unless you say yes, because the opportunities are hidden in the smallest details of life. You never know if one day you want to go to the supermarket because of buying rice. I don't know. Maybe in that supermarket, your future is waiting. You never know.
And that concludes our conversation for today. If you enjoyed this discussion, please be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode with others who might benefit from it. Until next time, be well!